I thought I was just the wrong kind of daughter-in-law for old money until I discovered my name vanished from a $5 million will right before Thanksgiving. My husband stayed silent. My mother-in-law smiled politely, and my father-in-law signed a codicil in the dead of night. I hired a lawyer, and just as the family raised their glasses over the turkey, the door opened. He walked in with a court order, a USB drive, and a truth that would burn down the entire feast. Tonight they thought they'd teach me a lesson. Turns out, it was my show. My name is Emily Carter, and I've spent 3 years trying to fit into a world where my nonprofit salary is worth less than their wine collection. The Hale estate sprawled across Cherry Hills Village like a monument to old Denver money, 22 rooms of limestone and ambition, where even the doorknobs judged you. I stood in the foyer that first Thanksgiving as Lucas's wife, watching snowflakes dust the circular driveway through leaded glass windows, my reflection fractured into 1,000 uncertain pieces. Emily, darling, you're here. Vivian Hale glided toward me, her cashmere wrap worth more than my monthly rent used to be. Her embrace was brief, professional, the kind you'd give a business associate, not a daughter-in-law. Lucas is helping Gregory in the study. Something about the quarterly reports. Of course he was. In the Hale family, even holidays came with board meetings. Can I help with anything? I offered, gesturing toward the kitchen where caterers choreographed a meal for 30. Oh no, dear, you just... relax. She said it the way she always did, like relaxation was my primary skill set. Tell me, how are things at your... what was it called, Harbor House? Harborline Family Center? I corrected gently, for perhaps the 20th time. Wow, we just secured funding for 50 more transitional housing units. How wonderful! Her smile never reached her eyes. It must be so fulfilling, working with the less fortunate. The less fortunate, as if poverty was a character flaw rather than a systemic failure. I bit back my usual response and accepted the glass of Montrachet she pressed into my hand, a $300 bottle opened as casually as a twist-off cap. Gregory Hale entered then, and the room's temperature seemed to drop. At 68, my father-in-law moved like a predator who'd never needed to hurry, silver-haired, sharp-jawed, with eyes that calculated your worth before you finished saying hello. Lucas trailed behind him, my husband's face already wearing that careful neutrality he adopted around his father. Emily, Gregory's nod was an acknowledgement, nothing more. Lucas tells me your little charity is doing well. Little charity. Harborline served 800 families last year. We're expanding our services, actually, I said, meeting his gaze. The housing crisis in Denver. Yes, well, we all do our part. He cut me off, turning to Lucas. Did you review the Stapleton development proposals? And just like that, I ceased to exist. It was a magic trick the Hales had perfected, making you disappear while you were still standing there. I sipped the wine, letting its obscene smoothness coat my throat, and wondered not for the first time what Lucas had told them about me before we married. Certainly not that I'd graduated summa cum laude from DU, or that I'd turned down 3 corporate offers to work at Harborline. In their eyes, I was simply the girl who'd somehow convinced their son to marry below his station. The dining room had been transformed into something from Architectural Digest crystal and silver reflecting the firelight, white orchids cascading from impossible heights. Place cards in calligraphy directed us to our seats, and I found myself, as always, at the far end from Gregory, seated between Lucas's ancient Aunt Millicent, who was half-deaf, and Cousin Bradley, who exclusively discussed his yacht. Family is everything, Gregory announced, raising his glass as we settled. The foundation upon which empires are built. Everyone murmured agreement. Lucas squeezed my hand under the table solidarity or warning. I couldn't tell anymore. Speaking of family business, Gregory continued, his gaze sweeping the table but lingering on me. We've been updating our estate planning, ensuring the family legacy remains protected. Vivian's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. Lucas's grip on my hand became painful. Wonderful, Aunt Millicent shouted, apparently catching every third word. Protection is important. The conversation shifted to safer grounds, ski season in Aspen, the new country club membership policies, which politician owed whom favors. I pushed food around my plate, duck with some reduction I couldn't pronounce, and listened to them discuss millions like Monopoly money. It wasn't until dessert that I heard the butler, Marcus, speaking quietly to another staff member near the kitchen door. Mr. Hale signed the codicil at 1:15 this morning. The lawyers were quite insistent about the timing. Codicil, a word that would soon destroy everything. But that night, I simply filed it away. Another piece of the puzzle that was becoming my life among the Hales. Another reminder that in this family, everything had a price tag, and I was beginning to suspect mine had just been marked for clearance. The cracks in my marriage weren't visible to outsiders. They were hairline fractures, spreading slowly beneath a polished surface. "You don't need to review our accounts." Lucas said one evening in October, closing his laptop as I entered his home office. "I handle all that." "I just thought we should discuss the vacation property tax," I said, holding the statement that had accidentally been delivered to my attention. "It's $30,000. Dad's accountant manages those details." He took the paper from my hand, filed it away in a drawer I'd never seen him open. "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." The Hale family motto for keeping outsiders outside. At Sunday dinners, the microaggressions came served alongside the courses. Vivian would introduce me to guests as Lucas's wife who works with the homeless, never by my name, never mentioning my master's degree or that I'd been featured in Denver Magazine's Changemakers Under 40. "It's so noble," her friend Margaret cooed one evening, diamonds catching the light as she gestured. "I could never do what you do. All that despair." "Actually, I work with families rebuilding their lives," I corrected. "Most are employed, just caught between Denver's rising costs and stagnant wages." Gregory laughed a sound like ice cracking, spoken like a true bleeding heart. "Lucas, remind me to increase our tax-deductible donations. We wouldn't want anyone thinking the Hales don't care about the— what did you call them? The employed homeless?" The table chuckled. Lucas studied his wine. I discovered the prenup's true nature by accident, searching for our insurance documents after a minor fender bender. The folder was labeled Marriage Contract, so romantic. Most of it was standard wealthy family paranoia, but buried on page 18 was something called the Alienation Clause. In the event that Emily Carter Hale engages in conduct deemed detrimental to the family's standing, fiduciary interests, or corporate relationships, all marital assets revert to the Hale Trust. Detrimental conduct. Deemed by whom, the language was vague enough to mean anything or everything. "Why didn't you tell me about this clause?" I asked Lucas that night. "Because it doesn't matter," he said, not looking up from his phone. "Unless you're planning to embarrass the family." Define embarrass. He finally met my eyes. "Come on, Em. You know what I mean." But I didn't. Did it mean speaking up when Gregory made racist jokes about his workers? Did it mean refusing to quit my job when Vivian suggested I should focus on giving them grandchildren? Did it mean existing as myself instead of the marble statue they wanted? 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I overheard Lucas on a call in his study, door slightly ajar. "Dad, I understand the estate planning update, but why now?" A pause. "No, she doesn't know. I'll handle it after the holidays." Another pause. "The misconduct clause should be enough if she fights it." My blood turned to ice water. Handle what, fight what? That evening, I smiled through dinner, laughed at Gregory's stories about crushing his business rivals, nodded when Vivian suggested I should consider stepping back from Harborline to support Lucas's career properly. "We're hosting the Denver Symphony benefit next month," Vivian announced. "Emily, you'll need to speak with my stylist. We can't have you wearing something off the rack." "Of course," I agreed, my voice steady even as my mind raced. They were closing ranks, pushing me toward some edge I couldn't yet see. The final warning came from an unexpected source, Gregory's driver, Anton, who'd always been kind to me. "Mrs. Hale?" he said quietly as he held the car door after another family dinner. "Perhaps you should speak with your own lawyer about your interests." "Anton." He glanced toward the house, then back at me. "The family lawyers had many meetings this week. Many documents. Mr. Gregory says big changes coming for the trust." He paused. "Protect yourself, Mrs. Hale." That night, I lay beside Lucas in our king-sized bed, in our 5,000-square-foot Cherry Creek house, surrounded by everything his money had bought, and felt poorer than I'd ever been. "Do you love me?" I asked the darkness. "Of course," Lucas murmured, already half asleep. "Why would you even ask that?" "Because love in the Hale family came with terms and conditions. Because I was starting to understand that I hadn't married a man I'd signed a contract with a corporation. And corporations, I was learning, always protected their assets. The email arrived at 2:43 p.m. on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, while I was reviewing grant applications at Harborline. To Lucas Hale, CC Emily Hale. Error, incorrect distribution. From Brennan and Associates Law Firm, R.E. Codicil, execution complete. Remove E.C. From Testament, my coffee mug slipped. Brown liquid spreading across welfare applications, families needing help suddenly drowning in my shock. Attached was a PDF. My hands trembled as I clicked it open. Amendment to the last will and testament of Gregory Marcus Hale. Hereby removes Emily Carter Hale as beneficiary of the $5 million bequest previously designated in Section 12B. Said funds to be redistributed to the Hale Family Trust, effective immediately upon execution. $5 million. I'd known about it. Of course, Gregory had made sure to mention it at our engagement dinner, his way of welcoming me to the family. "Every Hale heir receives their portion," he'd said, raising his champagne. "You're one of us now." Except I wasn't. Not anymore. I screenshot everything: the email, the attachment, the metadata showing it was created at 1:20 a.m. Monday morning and signed at 1:35 a.m. My phone rang immediately. "Lucas." You need to delete that email." "You knew." "Not a question. It's not what you think. There are tax implications. Restructuring. Stop." I stood, my office walls suddenly too close. "Just stop lying to me." "I'm not lying. Dad's lawyers recommended that you cut your wife out of $5 million 2 days before Thanksgiving. It's technical, Emily, a formality for the trust structure. You wouldn't understand, because I'm too poor, too stupid." "Which one?" "Lucas." Silence. Then, "Don't make this bigger than it is. Come home. We'll talk. I'm going to a lawyer." "Emily, don't." His voice turned sharp. "Remember the prenup. Any action against the family's interests." I hung up. My next call was to Sarah, a friend from college who worked at the Colorado Bar Association. "I need a lawyer who isn't afraid of money," I said. "How much money?" "Hale Industrial Holdings money." She whistled low. "Jordan Blake. Independent practice, used to work for the state attorney's office. Hates bullies with trust funds. I'll text you the number." Jordan Blake's office occupied a converted Victorian in Capitol Hill, all exposed brick and modern furniture, successful but not ostentatious. Jordan themselves was mid-30s, sharp-featured, wearing a suit that said competent rather than expensive. "Email's authentic," Jordan confirmed after reviewing my screenshots. "Sloppy of them to copy you, but lucky for us. Colorado law requires proper notification of testament changes affecting spouses. They violated that. Can they really just cut me out? Depends." Jordan pulled up a legal database. "When was this codicil signed?" 1:35 a.m. Monday morning. "Who witnessed it?" I scrolled through the document. Darren Cole and Margaret Brennan. Jordan's eyebrows rose. The CFO of Hale Holdings and their corporate lawyer at 1:30 in the morning. They made notes. That's unusual. Most testament changes happen during business hours. This suggests urgency or secrecy. "What about the prenup?" I explained the alienation clause. Prenups can't override inheritance law, Jordan said. But here's what's interesting: removing you from the will while you're still married, that could constitute marital asset manipulation. Does Gregory control other family trusts? Everything. Lucas gets distributions, but Gregory controls the principal. And has anything significant happened with the company recently? I thought back. There was talk about a merger, some big real estate development in Rhino. Lucas has been stressed, lots of closed-door meetings. Jordan typed rapidly. I'll pull the corporate filings. If Gregory's using estate assets as collateral for business deals, that's potential self-dealing. The timing of this codicil right before a major holiday when courts are closed feels deliberate. So what do I do? First, document everything. Every conversation, every email, every family event where inheritance was discussed. Second, we verify the codicil's validity, proper witnesses, notarization, mental capacity. They looked at me directly. Third, we decide if you want to fight this quietly or publicly. What would you do? Jordan smiled sharp. Knowing. I'd wait until they were all in one room, thinking they'd won. Then I'd serve them papers in front of everyone who matters to them. But I have a vindictive streak. I thought about 3 years of condescension, of being made to feel small, of Lucas choosing his father over his wife every single time. How soon can you have papers ready? When's your family gathering? Thanksgiving dinner? Thursday? 6 p.m.? Jordan's grin widened. I can work with that, but Emily, once we do this, there's no going back. They'll use every weapon they have. I looked at the screenshot on my phone. Remove E, C from testament, like I was just initials, not a person, not family. They already have, I said. Now it's my turn. Follow the money, Jordan said, spreading documents across their conference table like a general planning invasion. In families like the Hales, every dollar tells a story. We started with public records. Colorado's Secretary of State website revealed Gregory had created 3 new LLCs in the past month, all registered at 1 a.m. Timestamps the man apparently did his dirtiest work while the world slept. Look at this. Jordan pointed to a filing. Hale Holdings took out a $70 million loan from Wells Fargo 2 weeks ago. Guess what they used as collateral? I leaned in. The family trust assets, bingo, including the estate portions designated for heirs, which, until Monday, included your $5 million. Is that legal? Gray area? Trustees have broad powers, but using beneficiary assets for personal business ventures, Jordan shook their head. That's dancing on the edge of fiduciary breach. I'd been documenting everything since leaving Jordan's office. My phone became a weapon, recording conversations, photographing documents Lucas carelessly left on his desk, screenshotting family group texts where Gregory discussed restructuring for tax efficiency. Wednesday night, Lucas worked late or claimed to. I used the opportunity to photograph his home office files. In a folder marked Estate Planning 2024, I found gold emails between Gregory and CFO Darren Cole discussing using the trust as collateral, dated 3 weeks before my removal from the will. We need to adjust the beneficiary list before the loan closes. Darren had written, bank requires clean ownership structure. Gregory's response, handle E, C, situation first, can't have complications from non-blood beneficiaries. Non-blood beneficiaries. 3 years of marriage reduced to a bloodline issue. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mrs. Hale. This is Rebecca Chen from accounting at Hale Holdings. I think we should talk. We met at a Starbucks downtown at 7 a.m. Thursday morning, Thanksgiving Day. Rebecca was nervous, clutching her coffee like armor. I could lose everything for this, she said, sliding a USB drive across the table. But what they're doing isn't right. What's on it? Asset reallocation spreadsheets. Mr. Hale moved $40 million from the family trust to a special purpose vehicle in the Caymans. The transfer happened Monday night, 2 hours after you were removed from the will. Why help me? She looked away. My daughter works at your nonprofit. You helped her family when her husband left. Got them housing. Legal aid. You didn't know she was connected to Hale Holdings. She met my eyes. You help people without asking what's in it for you. The Hales could learn from that. The USB contained more than spreadsheets. There were recorded board meeting minutes where Gregory discussed eliminating heir liability, photos of documents being shredded, even security footage timestamps showing Gregory and Darren in the office at 1 a.m. Monday morning, 30 minutes before the codicil was signed. "This is conspiracy to commit fraud," Jordan said when I delivered everything. "Gregory removed you from the will specifically to free up assets for collateral. That's not just unethical, it's potentially criminal." "Can we prove it?" "With this, yes. But Emily, if we use this, we're not just fighting a will contest. We're potentially triggering a federal investigation into Hale Holdings." I thought about Lucas, about the family I'd tried so hard to join, about 3 years of making myself smaller to fit their world. "Good," I said. "When do we move?" Jordan checked their watch. "The process server is already on standby." "I've filed for an emergency injunction to freeze the trust assets, citing imminent dissipation of marital property. I've also prepared a petition to invalidate the codicil based on undue influence and breach of fiduciary duty. The judge will see this today. It's Thanksgiving. Judge Harrison owes me a favor. He's on call for emergency orders and agreed to review it electronically. If we're lucky, we'll have a signed TRO by 5 p.m. Just in time for dinner." Jordan smiled. "I also took the liberty of alerting a forensic accountant who specializes in trust fraud. She's ready to testify Monday morning." My phone rang. "Lucas. Where are you moms asking about appetizer arrangements?" "Running an errand. I'll be there by 6. "Emily." His voice softened. "I know things have been tense, but it's Thanksgiving. Can we just have a nice family dinner?" Family. The word sat bitter on my tongue. "Of course," I lied. "I even have a surprise for everyone." "Really?" He sounded genuinely pleased. "Dad will appreciate that. He's been stressed about the merger. The merger built on my stolen $5 million. "Oh, I think this will definitely ease his mind," I said. Jordan handed me a folder, copies of everything, tabbed and organized, including photos of the Thanksgiving invitation as evidence of the gathering, screenshots of family texts confirming attendance, even Gregory's own email about important family announcements to be made at dinner. "Your evidence package," Jordan said. "Everything the judge needs to see. We'll stream the USB contents to the main TV if they have smart connectivity." "They do. Gregory loves showing off his tech." "Perfect." Jordan stood, straightening their suit. "I'll arrive at 6:15. Give them time to get comfortable, start feeling secure. And then we remind them that karma doesn't take holidays." The trap was elegant in its simplicity. Let them think they'd won while I built a case that would shatter their victory at its peak. "I'll be there." I texted the family group chat Thursday morning. "Looking forward to our traditional gathering." Vivian responded with a heart emoji, the first she'd ever sent me. Guilt, perhaps, or relief that I was playing along. Jordan had worked through the night. At 11 a.m., they called with an update. Motion filed with the probate court. Emergency hearing scheduled for Monday, 8 a.m. Judge Harrison reviewed our preliminary evidence and agreed to expedite given the asset movement to the Caymans. "What about the TRO?" "He'll sign it electronically by 5 p.m. I've arranged for a process server with proper credentials, 20 years experience. Bonded, 0 successful challenges to his service. He'll be wired for audio recording." Recording. Colorado's one-party consent state. Everything said will be admissible. I spent the afternoon preparing my own evidence kit. The USB drive contained not just Rebecca's files, but a PowerPoint Jordan created a timeline showing every asset transfer synchronized with my removal from the will. Simple enough for the family to understand. Damning enough to destroy Gregory's credibility. At 3 p.m., Lucas called. "Where are you? Mom needs help with place settings." "Getting my hair done." I lied. Sitting in Jordan's office as we rehearsed the confrontation. "Want to look perfect for the family photos?" "Dad's planning to announce the Rhino development deal tonight. Act surprised." The development funded by my stolen inheritance. I'm sure I'll be speechless. Jordan's paralegal. Marcus knocked. Court clerk just called. TROs signed. Judge Harrison added something extra in order for immediate accounting of all trust assets moved since November 1st. Beautiful, Jordan said. Emily, you need to leave now. Be there before 6. Act normal. I'll handle the rest. I drove to Cherry Hills Village, watching storm clouds gather over the mountains. Fitting weather for what was coming. The house blazed with light, cars already filling the circular drive Lucas's cousins, Gregory's business partners, even Mayor Davidson's Mercedes. Perfect. The more witnesses, the better. Emily. Vivian air-kissed me at the door. Don't you look lovely? New dress. Something special for tonight? I said truthfully. The dining room was immaculate crystal china. Enough food for 50, though we were 32. I took my assigned seat, still at the far end, still the outsider. Before we begin, Gregory stood, commanding attention. I want to share some exciting news. Hale Holdings has secured the largest development deal in Denver history. The Rhino project will transform the city's landscape. Applause rippled through the room. I clapped too, knowing that in 18 minutes, their celebration would end. Lucas squeezed my shoulder. See, everything's working out. For someone. I'd hidden the USB in my purse, the one Jordan's tech expert had modified with remote activation. One click on my phone would stream its contents to Gregory's Pride, the 80-inch smart TV visible from the dining room. At 6:10, I excused myself for the bathroom, texting Jordan, now. From the powder room, I heard the doorbell. Marcus's voice. Catering service, running late. Apologies. Vivian's confused response. We have all our catering. I returned to find Jordan Blake standing in the archway between foyer and dining room, briefcase in hand, process server beside them. The room fell silent. Gregory Hale. Jordan's voice carried perfectly. Who the hell are you? Gregory rose, face flushing. Jordan Blake, attorney for Emily Carter Hale. This is Timothy Morrison, certified process server. Jordan nodded to the man, who stepped forward with documents. Gregory Marcus Hale, you are hereby served with a petition to invalidate the codicil dated November 18th, a motion for emergency injunction, and a temporary restraining order signed by Judge Harrison at 4:55 p.m. today. The paper dropped into Gregory's hands as gasps rippled through the room. This is Thanksgiving dinner, Vivian shrieked. Yes, Jordan said calmly. A family gathering with 32 witnesses, all of whom should know that Mr. Hale has been accused of breach of fiduciary duty, fraudulent transfer of trust assets, and conspiracy to deprive a beneficiary of lawful inheritance. Get out, Lucas snarled, moving toward Jordan. I'd also like to present evidence. Jordan continued, pulling out their phone. Mrs. Hale, would you activate the presentation? I clicked my phone. The TV flared to life. What you're seeing, Jordan announced as the timeline appeared, is proof that Gregory Hale removed Emily from a $5 million inheritance specifically to use those funds as collateral for a private loan. Then moved $40 million in trust assets offshore all within 72 hours. The room erupted. Mayor Davidson stood abruptly. 2 of Gregory's investors pulled out phones. Vivian sank into her chair. This is inadmissible, Gregory roared. Actually, Jordan smiled. Everything here was obtained legally, including the security footage of you and CFO Darren Cole in your office at 30 minutes before this codicil was signed. The TV showed grainy footage Gregory and Darren with documents, timestamps glowing. The emergency injunction freezes all Hale trust assets immediately, Jordan continued. Any attempt to move funds will be considered contempt of court. The room exploded like a champagne bottle shaken too hard pressure. Then chaos. You manipulative bitch! Gregory's mask finally shattered completely, his face purple with rage. You think you can walk into my house and, actually, Jordan interrupted, pulling another document from their briefcase. This house is part of the marital estate. The TRO specifically prevents any retaliation against Mrs. Hale, including eviction attempts. The TV continued its damning slideshow. Email after email flickered past Gregory instructing Darren to handle the Emily problem. Darren confirming beneficiary removal complete. The offshore account screenshots Rebecca had provided. Turn that off. Vivian stood, hands shaking as she reached for the remote. I wouldn't, Jordan warned. Destroying evidence is obstruction of justice. Mayor Davidson was already at the door. Gregory, I need to reconsider our partnership. 3 more investors followed him out, their exits a symphony of abandoned alliances. This is all fake. Gregory sputtered, but his eyes darted to Darren, who'd gone pale as cemetery marble. The forensic accountant will verify everything Monday morning. Jordan continued. She's already reviewed the preliminary documents. Her words were, and I quote, "This is the sloppiest fraud I've seen from someone who should know better." Lucas grabbed my arm. Emily, stop this. We can work this out privately. I pulled free. Like you worked out removing me from the will privately at 1:30 in the morning. You don't understand the tax implications. Stop. I stood, facing the table of horrified faces. 3 years. 3 years I've sat at this table while you treated me like furniture. Listened to you mock my work, my values, my existence. You thought I was too poor, too naive, too grateful to fight back. I pulled out my phone, showing them the original email. You couldn't even remove me properly. CC'd me by mistake on your conspiracy. Aunt Millicent, who'd been silent until now, cackled. Harold always said you were sloppy. Gregory, your father would be ashamed. Shut up, Millicent. The no contest clause, Vivian said suddenly, grasping for straws. If Emily challenges the will, she forfeits everything. Jordan actually smiled. No contest clauses don't apply when there's evidence of fraud, undue influence, or breach of fiduciary duty. We have all 3. The doorbell rang again. Everyone froze. Marcus answered it, returning with 2 uniformed officers. Mr. Hale, we need you to surrender any documents related to the family trust. Judge's orders. This is harassment, Gregory shouted. This is consequence, I said quietly. The officers began collecting files from Gregory's study, visible from the dining room. Each box they carried out was another piece of the Hale empire crumbling. You've destroyed us, Lucas said, his voice hollow. The merger will fail. The company will tank. Hundreds of jobs. Your father destroyed you when he chose fraud over family. I interrupted. I'm just refusing to be a silent victim. Jordan's phone buzzed. They checked it, smiled. The Wells Fargo representative confirms they're freezing the credit line pending investigation. The $70 million is recalled. Gregory dropped into his chair like his strings had been cut. There's more, Jordan announced. Mrs. Hale is prepared to file a separate civil suit for intentional infliction of emotional distress, fraud, and breach of marital fiduciary duty. However, they paused for effect. She's willing to discuss settlement. Tomorrow, after you've had time to digest the criminal implications of tonight's revelations. Criminal, Vivian whispered. Wire fraud, for starters. Moving money offshore to avoid legal obligations. The FBI takes particular interest in amounts over $40 million. Someone was crying, one of the cousins. The carefully curated Thanksgiving had become a wake for the Hale dynasty. I walked to the head of the table, where Gregory sat defeated. You gave a toast earlier about family being everything. You were right. I looked at each face. Family is everything, which is why betraying family is unforgivable. The TV screen changed one final slide. A photo from my wedding, Gregory raising a toast. His speech transcribed below, Emily, you're a Hale now. Family money is your money. Family legacy is your legacy. Your own words, Jordan noted, recorded by your videographer. Legal promise of inheritance. Get out, Gregory whispered, aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Actually, the process server spoke for the first time. I need Mr. Hale to sign acknowledgement of service. Gregory's hand shook as he signed. Jordan packed their briefcase with theatrical precision. Mrs. Hale, shall we? I looked at Lucas one last time. You have until 9, tomorrow to decide stand with your father's crimes or sign the settlement. Jordan will send the terms. Emily, please. But I was already walking out, leaving behind 3 years of humiliation and a table full of people who'd just learned what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. The last thing I heard was Aunt Millicent's voice. Well, this is definitely more exciting than last year's dinner. The aftermath was swift and brutal, like watching a building implode in slow motion. By 8 p.m., my phone had 37 missed calls. Lucas, Vivian, even Gregory's lawyer. I sat in Jordan's office, watching them light up my screen like desperate fireworks. Let them panic, Jordan advised, pouring wine from a bottle they'd saved for victories. Desperation makes people honest. At 9:15, Lucas arrived at Jordan's office uninvited, disheveled in a way I'd never seen tie loose. Hair messed, the golden boy tarnished. We need to talk, he said. Alone. Anything you say to me can be said in front of my attorney. He flinched. My attorney. When did I become the enemy? November 18th at 1:35 a.m. I replied. When you let your father steal $5 million from your wife. I didn't know. Stop. I pulled out my phone, played the recording I'd made of his call weeks ago. His own voice filled the room. Dad, I understand the estate planning update. No, she doesn't know. I'll handle it after the holidays. Lucas sank into a chair. I was trying to protect you. From my own money. From them. From this world. You don't understand how vicious. I understand perfectly. I've lived it for 3 years. Jordan interrupted. Mr. Hale, are you here to discuss settlement? Lucas rubbed his face. The investors are pulling out. Davidson killed the city contracts. Dad's having chest pains. Mom's locked herself in her room. He looked at me. You've destroyed everything. Your father destroyed everything. I just refused to be buried in the rubble. What do you want? Jordan slid a document across the desk. Full restoration of the $5 million. Immediate divorce with equitable distribution despite the prenup we're claiming fraud in the inducement, plus damages for emotional distress. That's $12 million total, Lucas said flatly. Cheap, considering the alternative is federal prison for your father. Lucas's phone rang. He answered on speaker without thinking a mistake. Gregory's voice boomed out. Don't give that bitch anything. The no contest clause is void, Jordan said loudly enough for Gregory to hear. As is your freedom if you keep threatening my client. Who the hell? Your future courtroom opponent. Choose wisely, Mr. Hale. Lucas hung up. For a moment, we just stared at each other across the divide of Jordan's desk. You know what the worst part is, Lucas said finally. I actually loved you. Before Dad got in my head, before the money became everything, I loved that you saw people, not price tags. Then why didn't you protect me? Because I'm a coward. The admission seemed to physically hurt him. Dad trained me to be. Every time I stood up to him as a kid, something I loved disappeared. My dog, sent to a farm. My best friend, whose father suddenly lost his job. My girlfriend in college, who received photos of us that would have ruined her career. I felt a flicker of sympathy, quickly smothered. So you let him do it to me instead. I thought I could manage it, keep you separate from that world, while living in it, taking his money, following his rules. Lucas nodded slowly. The settlement. If I sign it, agree to everything what happens to Dad. Jordan leaned forward. That depends on his cooperation. Return the offshore funds, restore the trust, accept federal monitoring of his finances. He might avoid prosecution. The FBI has been watching Hale Holdings for 2 years. Jordan revealed. Your wife's case just gave them the evidence they needed. Lucas went white. 2 years. Why do you think Rebecca Chen was really in accounting? I said quietly. She's been feeding information to the feds. Her daughter doesn't work at my nonprofit. She doesn't even have a daughter. The last piece clicked into place for Lucas. You knew. This whole time. You knew. I knew for 3 days. But yes, I used it. Christ, Emily, you're not who I thought you were. No, I agreed. I'm not the grateful charity worker who married above her station. I'm the woman who refused to be a casualty of your family's greed. Lucas stood slowly. I'll sign. Everything. Tonight. Lucas. I started. No. He held up a hand. Dad made his choice. You made yours. Now I'm making mine. He looked at Jordan. I want immunity from any federal charges in exchange for cooperation. I can arrange that. Lucas turned to me one last time. That nonprofit you love so much, keep fighting for those families. Someone should. He paused at the door. And Emily. You were right. We were never really family. Family doesn't require contracts. After he left, Jordan and I sat in silence for a moment. The FBI really has been watching them, I asked. Jordan grinned. No idea. But Lucas doesn't know that. And now he'll tell Gregory, who will panic and possibly confess to things we don't even know about yet. That's evil. That's justice. My phone buzzed. A text from Vivian. You've won. What more do you want? I typed back, what I always wanted, to be treated like I mattered. Her response came quickly. You mattered. That's why we tried so hard to break you. We only destroy threats. It was the closest to respect I'd ever gotten from her. It was enough. The call came at 11:47 p.m. from Judge Harrison himself. Ms. Blake, given the evidence of imminent asset dissipation, I'm signing an expanded emergency order. Federal marshals will execute it immediately. Jordan put him on speaker. Tonight, Your Honor. Mr. Hale attempted to wire $30 million to Geneva 20 minutes ago. The bank flagged it and called the FBI. They're moving now. We drove back to Cherry Hills Village, following 3 black SUVs with federal plates. The house that had intimidated me for 3 years looked fragile under the harsh LED lights the marshals set up, like a stage set about to be struck. Gregory stood in the foyer in his monogrammed pajamas, hands cuffed behind his back, still trying to command authority he no longer possessed. This is a misunderstanding, he kept saying. Call Senator Williams. Call the governor. They've been called, Mr. Hale, the lead marshal said. They suggested you cooperate. Vivian sat on the grand staircase, clutching a Hermes bag like a life preserver, watching strangers catalog her life. Lucas was nowhere to be seen already at Jordan's office. We learned later, signing everything, choosing survival over solidarity. Emily, Gregory's voice cracked when he saw me. You did this. You destroyed a legacy built over 50 years. No, I said, stepping into the foyer I'd once been too intimidated to cross alone. You destroyed it the moment you decided I was disposable. A marshal approached with a lockbox from Gregory's study. Ma'am, your name is on this. Emily Carter Hale, dated 3 years ago. Inside was the original bequest document, the one naming me as beneficiary of $5 million. Gregory had kept it like a trophy of what he'd stolen. Mr. Hale, the marshal said, we need you to surrender all passwords for overseas accounts. I want my lawyer. He's being arrested too, another marshal announced. Brennan's in custody for conspiracy to commit wire fraud. The moment of total victory should have felt triumphant. Instead, standing in that marble foyer watching an empire crumble, I felt only tired and free. Your things, Vivian said suddenly, her voice hollow. They're in the pool house. I had them moved this afternoon. Of course she had, even in defeat, petty. Keep them, I said. I don't want anything from this house except what was legally mine. The lead marshal's phone rang. He listened, then looked at Gregory. The Geneva bank has frozen the account and agreed to full repatriation. The $40 million will be returned by Monday. Gregory's legs gave out. 2 marshals caught him before he hit the marble. Stress position, one muttered. Not a medical emergency. Jordan touched my arm. We should go. Let them finish. As we walked to the door, Aunt Millicent emerged from the dining room, still in her dinner pearls, holding a piece of pie. Emily, she called out. Harold would have liked you. He always said Gregory confused fear with respect. She took a bite of pie. Guess you taught him the difference. Outside, snow was falling harder, covering the circus of federal vehicles in pristine white. Lucas's Tesla pulled up as we reached Jordan's car. He got out, looking like he'd aged 5 years in 5 hours. It's done, he said simply. Signed everything. Gave them Dad's real books, the ones he didn't know I knew about. Lucas, $12 million will be in your account Monday. The divorce will be final in 90 days. He looked at the house, now surrounded by crime scene tape. I'm leaving Denver, maybe Europe. Somewhere the Hale name means nothing. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. Sorry for the boy who'd been crushed into a coward, for the man who'd chosen wrong until it was too late. Don't be. You did what I should have done years ago. Stood up to him. He attempted a smile. That nonprofit of yours, they're getting a rather large anonymous donation next week. Call it penance. He drove away without looking back, disappearing into the swirling snow. The marshal emerged with evidence boxes. Mrs. Hale, Mr. Gregory Hale wants to make a deal. Full confession for house arrest instead of federal prison. That's the prosecutor's decision, Jordan said, but my client's cooperation will be noted. I looked back at the house one last time at Vivian in the window, at Gregory being led to a federal vehicle, at the empire that had tried to crush me lying in ruins. How does it feel, Jordan asked, to win? I thought about the 3 years of subtle cruelty, the stolen inheritance, the Thanksgiving that became a battleground. Like justice, I said. Expensive, complicated, but finally, justice. The federal vehicles pulled away in formation, red lights painting the snow like spilled wine. By morning, the Denver Post would run the headline, Hale Empire Falls Thanksgiving Dinner, leads to federal investigation. But tonight, standing in the snow outside the house that had never been home, I pulled out my phone and made a different call. Harborline Family Center, emergency line. Susan, it's Emily. I'll be back Monday, and we need to talk about expanding. I've just come into some funding. Because in the end, the best revenge wasn't destroying the Hales. It was using their own money to build something they'd never understand, a world where worth isn't measured in dollars, where families aren't corporations, where power means lifting others up instead of tearing them down. The snow kept falling, covering all traces of the battle, leaving only the victory. Thank you for listening to my story of betrayal, justice, and ultimately, triumph. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Have you ever had to stand up to power? How did you find your courage? Your stories matter too, and I'd love to hear them.